What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This episode number 502. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me, well, not on the line, but in fact, in my hotel room, it's not Luis Scott-Vargas. Luis actually couldn't make it to the show this time. He had some stuff pop up right after the tournament. We're in Barcelona, Spain for Mythic Championship 4. So what I did is did a little bit of an audible here, and I pulled in 3 of my coverage coworkers and friends to do a little coverage roundtable and answer your questions on the Q&A. First and foremost, numero uno, the big hitter, Maria Bartholdi.
Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to Limited Resources, episode 502. I'm replacing Marshall.
You were meant to replace Luis.
Oh,
ideally.
Sure. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So, of course, Maria from Good Luck High Five and Coverage and every other place you've seen her. Thanks for coming on, Maria.
No problem.
It's nice to see you. Next on the list, the Wild Dog Millionaire.
What's up?
Riley Knight.
What's up?
From Channel Fireball, from Marina Boys, and of course, Coverage and your weird podcasts.
Yeah, thanks very much. Halfpasthistory.net, get across it. If you want to, it's a great insomnia cure, Marshall. It really is. Gets you to sleep real nice.
People say that to us. They're
That's
like,
what
I
use
love your
Limited
podcast.
Resources.
I fall asleep to it all the time.
I've had that message a couple of times. It's like, yeah, she is, I guess.
Yeah, they're like, well, no, your voice is so soothing. I'm like, but the content's so bad, you're falling. Maybe we... No, they said, they insist it's a compliment.
I mean,
you should take it as such as well.
I'm choosing to take it like that, yeah.
That is. And at least, I mean, hey, they listened, right?
Look, if I get that click, I don't care. That's it. That's all. I just want those numbers up. That's all. You know,
Wow.
You can go to the website. Don't even listen to it. It looks good for potential sponsor, whatever else. Just fine. I just want those numbers up.
That's Riley Knight, by the way.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we've got to my right. I can barely see him because I got to stay on this mic, but it is none other than the Willoughby down, Tim Willoughby. Welcome back to the show, Tim.
What is up, everybody?
Wait, we got 3 Marshalls here now. Riley's the only one who's not. This is just unbelievable. It's good to see you, Tim. What have you been up to since the last time you were on the show? We haven't had you on in a while.
I have been running my game store in London.
Ooh, tell us about it.
Magic Madhouse London. We're a bar. We are a shop. We've got a whole bunch of magic and a whole bunch of booze, which, as it turns out, fits together real nice.
Okay, well, at the end of the show, we'll let you give any information for people that are living or visiting London so they can come check out your store. I had a chance to do so at the Mythic Championship in London, and it is definitely worth visiting. Let's get into it here. First things first, we got to talk about our sponsor. That's channelfireball.com. That's the place to go for all things magic related on the internet. Of course, if you just, if you need magic cards, you're going to find them there. They've got singles, they've got sealed product, supplies, all of that kind of stuff, and some of the best free content from some of the best players and content creators in the world right on the front page of the site. If you want to get to the newsletter, channelfireball.com/newsletter, they've actually got 3 of them now. One for Modern, one for Commander, and one from Luis, which is, I guess, kind of the general one. You could sign up for those, and sometimes they even put cool deals in there. Riley, what do you got coming up on CFB? You've been making some stuff.
Oh, yeah, we got Arena Boys deck code coming in every week. And then usually I usually have a little Modern article most weeks as well, because I've been obviously getting involved with Modern recently because of the Mythic Championship, that sort of stuff. So I'll probably do a bit of a recap of like that. You can skip my articles, though, again. Make sure you open them, click on them. But,
Get the click. Get the click.
Get that click.
Don't worry about converting.
Don't worry about it. Don't read it. Don't waste your time on those articles. There's much better content to consume. But do click.
Yes, but
do click.
Definitely click on Riley's article so you can make him happy. Channelfireball.com for all of that. Of course, the show is also brought to you by you via the Patreon. That's right. If you want to support the show directly, you can do so. Patreon.com/limited resources. You'll get some cool bonuses. And of course, we appreciate each and every one of you who do so. Crack a pack. Maria.
All right, I've got a pack of M20 here, so let's open it.
Ooh, did you open it with one hand?
I've had a question.
Wait, that's kind of an assist.
I'm one-handing it.
Okay, a little
basically.
Yeah, assist there.
There's
All
something
right,
I've wondered about the Limited Resources Cracker Pack for a long time, because I've listened to the show. Like I got into Magic with Limited Resources years ago, like so many people did. And the Cracker Pack noise is always so loud. And I was like, do they just like rustle the pack in front of the microphone just to get that good ASMR?
Yeah, what I do is
like that.
I don't shove it like into the mic, but I'll bring it up to like my chest level and get a little.
You make a little bit of a production out of it.
And I do smell the cards. By the way.
I just smelled them too, just for you, Marshall.
I saw, what was it, a comic or something that had one of those candles. The scented candles, and the scent was, new magic cards.
They could do it.
It was a joke, but I mean, I
but
formulate
we want
that.
it.
Like,
We want
it's
it.
a little bit of a chemical smell. Like I like it in small doses. I don't know if I want my whole living room.
No, yeah, you bring around like you know the in-laws or whatever else. It's like, what is this? What does it smell?
That's right. What do we get? M20?
Yes, M20 here. All right. Aerial Assault, everybody. Aerial Assault. All right.
I mean, not that we would never pick it.
It's a fine
but
card.
If we first pick it, that's a big
Something's
bummer.
gone really
sad
well.
Also, one of the big trends with M20, and of course, if anybody has anything to add, feel free to chime in. But white has been.
People don't love it. Today I watched Martin Mueller, actually, who made top 8, of course, for this tournament, playing a green-white deck, which was like the most beautiful green-white deck I'd
Modern Horizons?
ever seen. Modern Horizons draft.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I guess we're playing M20. Never mind. I'm tired. Scratch all that. Anyway, it was bad.
We did see some players in the feature match area of so by the way, it is true of both formats.
Yes.
White is kind of the hated color. In fact, one of our questions from the patrons is about that too. White needs some work.
That's because people in R&D don't respect the white, Marshall.
Oh, is that what you think? It's a bunch of
They love blue.
value,
Yes.
spiky, like.
Yeah, I'm calling them out right now.
Okay.
All right, they need a white. They
You
need a
wouldn't
white.
want to do that on your
White
show.
doesn't
You
have a
just gotta
thing.
do it on mine.
Like blue's got card drawing, black's got creature removal, red's got like being super aggressive and getting in there. Blue's also got more flyers.
Green has,
green's
like,
got
big-
gigantic
yeah,
monsters,
exactly.
and then white gets
Being
small to
good.
medium-sized monsters.
Yeah.
It can't compete on any of the axes that win games.
Yeah, if you don't count removal, what's the signature common for white? We talked about this on the show a few weeks ago, and I challenge you three as well. Give me a reasonable common white card that you'd be excited to play. One, somebody sent us
Pacifism.
an email. Yeah, so outside of
healer.
removal, though, right?
Oh, okay.
Because that's great. Like, pacifism fits that bill totally, but the other colors now get a good common removal spell as well. And the interesting thing is, they also get like a really good creature, some good flyer in blue, or like you guys were saying, a big green creature that's good on rate. What about white? It feels like it's always some 3/2 for 3 with like some big benefit if you attack with a bunch of creatures. Like, that's not good enough. One listener had emailed in and said some combination of 3 mana in white, whether it's white, 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 or some other combination, for like 3/1/1s. Right? Like giving you the true go wide of the tokens action, but a little more oomph than, a lot of the 2 mana variants of that. Like, that might be it. But its problem is that knob, you can't make them 2/1s, right?
And they're also
You
not
can't make 'em
necessarily good on their own, like some of these other answers have been.
Totally. Exactly. Like, it still needs help even then, right? I mean, maybe it's a good enabler, but you're right. It's still not just raw power. Maybe make it an instant. Anyway,
Here we go. Sage's Row Denizen. Are we doing it?
I like that card, but no.
I've gotten by that card in multiples a couple of times.
I have 2. I had 5.
Yeah, I've milled people in sealed with this.
I have 2.
3 on the back end helps.
Reduced to Ashes is up next.
Okay. That's our serviceable removal spell.
I'll pull it to the front for now. Audacious Thief. Love this card.
Pull that one to the front.
Yeah,
for now.
absolutely.
Okay, that-
yeah.
that-
Front
that's
runner so
good.
far.
Wolfkin Bond.
Love this card.
Really?
I love this card.
Why?
This is the exact kind of card Marshall's going to turn his nose up at.
Can you rip that up? Can you just literally rip that up?
Nightly, it's just Knightly Valor, except
You
Wolfly
actually
Valor.
can't, can you? Because you only have
I
one
only
hand
have
because
one
of the mic.
hand.
Here, give it to me.
I could do it with my
Eat
mouth.
it.
Riley, here's your Wolfkin Bond.
Wolfly Valor. Oh, my Wolfly Valor.
Wow.
Getting that good ASMR
That is
happening
brutal.
once again.
Here, there's 4 of them for you, right?
I can use one as a wolf token. Here we go. Oh, no, so sad.
All right, we will not be taking Wolfkin Bond.
How about this that you will not be taking? Soul Mender. Soul Mender. Tim's
we're
just
off
sad.
It. We're off it. Tim
Okay.
has a big side.
Vial of Dragonfire.
That combo with
if you can
what's
fetch
it
it up-
called is actually a thing.
Renowned
It is for
Weaponsmith.
real a thing.
But it's still
Honestly.
not good
I don't hate
enough
this card.
to
It's
pick.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine.
We're not first picking
But still, the Audacious Thief is just
Ooh,
gasoline.
here we go. How about this? Agonizing Siphon.
All right.
I do like this
Yeah,
one.
narrowed business. I like this.
Which one is that?
Goes
All right.
to the dome.
3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life.
it's a
4
helix.
mana.
Sliding
3 to
helix,
black.
Sure,
Yeah.
it's fine
I'm a
card.
fan.
I'd still rather have the Thief, but
Okay.
I would.
Healer of the Glade. The 1/2 when it ETBs gain 3 life.
Now, the only thing good about that card is that it's an elemental.
Correct.
Yeah.
Ooh. All right. I've got it, everybody.
You got the winner?
What do you think? I mean, we're still at common. What do you think I'm excited about?
Pacifism.
Some creature with hexproof.
Marshall.
There's none with hexproof. Some stupid
Right.
aura.
No, Cloud Conceer.
Ooh.
Wait,
Okay.
what? That's not...
It's a good card,
We're
though.
all excited about that card.
Yeah.
That card is just dope. In
That's what
fact,
I'm
it's
saying.
just
You
better
don't get
than
to take
Thief.
that one as being a Maria card.
No,
That's
no,
just
no.
a good
This
card.
is just a good
You
card.
can't co-op that one.
And it's an elemental just for the sick rubbins. Pattern matcher. This has never done anything in its life. Ooh, air elemental.
Oh my god.
Here we go.
We're
Okay.
kind of
talking.
doing it. So
Yeah.
now we have Air Elemental or Cloud Concealer.
Yeah. Actually, which do you like better?
God, I've never had this choice before. I mean, like, first instinct, Air Elemental's better. It's just more power.
I want to take the cloud
I
concealer.
wanna
but,
take
the
the Cloud
Seer, but the
Concealer, man.
Seer really does put up a fight
Yeah.
here. So you're on Seer,
I'm
Tim.
on- I'm on
Tim,
the
what
I
do you
think I
want?
like the air elemental here. Like,
Okay.
4 toughness on the flyers that's the sweet spot, I think.
It is. All right, so let's see if we
Okay.
have something better to knock this argument out.
All right, well, not yet. Apostle of Purifying Light. That's the 2/1. You can pay 2 to exile target card from a graveyard, pro black.
Yeah, it's fine, but no.
We're talking about insomnia cures.
I have the magic touch, Marshall.
What did you open?
I opened a mythic.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
And
for our
we-
listeners, by the way.
Oh, that's right. And we are taking it. Vivian, Arcbow Ranger.
Boom,
Yeah, we
baby!
did it.
There.
Nice. That's the one.
So this pack goes to a listener?
Yeah, the cards all go to a list.
So they got a Vivian and a ripped up Wolfkin back?
I will put that in the package. With
Oh, wow, all right.
I will put that in the
What a
in the
win!
cards
What a
with them.
win for that listener!
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. So I think we all agree we're taking the Vivian, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the discussion then between the Air Elemental and the Cloud Concealer. You're on Seer.
I'm on the Seer.
And
I'm
you're
on-
on Seer.
I'm on Seer.
And me and Tim are both on Elemental. I wonder how close this is, really.
I really like drafting the Elementals deck,
Yeah.
and I draft a lot on Arena, and I think I've seen more Risen Reefs than I think anyone has any right to. The bots don't seem to take this card as high as they should.
I agree.
I think they're afraid of gold cards, the bots.
That's it. Yeah, they've got a built-in fear of.
I'm not.
No, we don't have that fear.
I will let you in on a little secret. Air Elemental.
Hmm.
Also an Elemental.
So it is, but I think
Not quite as good in the deck. I'll give you that.
I think so too. I think you need.
But raw power 4/4 flyer is just a
I'm
game
telling you,
winner.
the fact that this is a 3-drop, I think, is what's putting it over
Agree.
the top for
I
me.
agree. Okay.
And you get to cantrip with it. I mean, like,
I
shut
mean,
up.
we all
Tim,
like drawing
have we
cards.
been swayed here?
Like,
You're going to get this later. You're going to get the air elemental later.
Dude,
It'll
you
will.
are not
It'll
getting
will.
a later
Don't worry about it.
Elemental.
Yes, you are.
I mean, I feel like the air elemental is going to get its 2-for-1 when they have to double block it with 2 of their flyers to kill it.
Or when it strands 2 cards in their hand because they die.
All these things.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's quite a lot of good 3s.
I feel
and-
like if Luis was here, he would agree with me and Riley.
I mean,
That's
this is gonna be
interesting.
a
This is a
fun-
super close one. I actually don't know the answer.
Will
I
you
would-
text him?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We get the
I just need to
decisive.
know.
I will do that, and we'll find out. In fact, I've got a running chat with him and Chion, and Paul will probably.
Okay,
chime in.
great. But I think you're right about elementals and seeing it a lot and whatever. And I think the teamer colors in draft right now in M20 is easily the best colors that you want to be in.
Yeah, I'm not too picky. Like, I don't mind if I'm red-green or blue-green or red-blue, but that's where I want to be. Like,
I definitely want to be green. I definitely want to be green. Like, I'll play red-green splashing Risen Reef, or I'll play blue-green with a Risen Reef. But I think the red-blue one isn't. Although you can get, if you go really deep on the Goblin Smugglers and the Lavakin Brawlers, oh, that's a good feeling.
That is nasty.
That's a great feeling.
I do also love that deck, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into our questions. So we have to modify this a little bit because we did. Oh wait, I just got an answer.
Oh,
Oh, look at
boy.
So here's the thing. Luis is with Ben Stark right now.
Okay.
And
So we've
asked
got
him.
so many heads on the table. What was I going to
Whoa.
say? Heads on the
So
case.
we get both of their opinions. Seer.
Yes.
That's from Luis.
Okay.
From Ben. Also Seer.
Yes.
All right,
Got
we got there, Riley.
Look at these
Never
geniuses.
didn't have it.
All right. So what we did is we took a bunch of questions from listeners. Now, a bunch of them were kind of Luis focused. So I tried to kind of pick the ones that would be more general for a group like us. So let's get into it right now. The first one comes from Max, who says, so I think everybody agrees that white is the worst color in M20. So apropos of our conversation there. What do you do when it's clearly the open lane in a draft? At what point are you willing to move into white? This is, of course, fundamental to drafting of all types, right? Whether it's a color or an archetype, it's self-correcting. Look, I don't care how bad the color is. If you're the only person in it and you've opened something decent to put you in it, you're going to have a good deck. And they haven't really printed a color that was that unplayable outside of a couple of rare occasions. And I don't think that this is that scenario either. It's relative, right? It's the worst, but that doesn't mean that it's completely basement awful and untouchable. And I don't think that white is an M20 either. It's just, it skews the picks enough so that when you do see a card like Pacifism in Pack 1, Pick 1, you've got that downgraded a lot. Where normally, if white was like a good color, Pacifism you'd be actually quite happy to take one and be like, well, this will put me into white. That's kind of the long and short of it, at least for M20. At what point am I willing to move into white?
If I'm already in black and I've got life gain synergies.
Do you like that deck?
I think it's fine, yeah. Like, if I've already got the black cards that care about life gain and a couple of cards that have like the life gain synergies, then I'm more inclined to slide into white. But equally, I'm quite happy staying out.
Okay.
I like to think of it as if you're starving and there's a giant steak in the middle of the floor, and you've got to survive for a month. And in the other room, there's 1,000 carrots. You should probably take the 1,000 carrots and not the juicy steak, right? Do you like my analogy?
I'm hungry. So I think your analogy worked beautifully.
Okay, great.
You've piqued my hunger.
Riley is horrified at the notion of eating that carrot.
I don't like carrots too much. A steak, I'm more put off by a steak. I don't like steak. I don't like steak, man. I mean, this is a whole other can of worms. My taste in food, but 1,000 carrots sounds better than a steak. Ugh.
Anthony says, so last time I found out that neither of you play musical instruments. So this was for Luis and I. Neither of us do. Now, I know, Riley, you play guitar.
I can play most instruments.
Most instruments?
None very well.
Okay, but you can pick up and be comfortable. Yeah. Tim, you're a guitarist, right?
I play guitar, bass, cello, piano, a whole bunch of stuff.
Maria, please say you don't play anything.
Marshall, I'm just going to, fit exactly the stereotype you think of me and let you know that I play the banjo.
How about ukulele?
Yes, also the ukulele. But more so than that, I sing. So that was my instrument
that I've seen you do, so I knew that one. But we're talking, come on, pick up like a device here and... Anyway,
I recorded a bunch of magic songs. It's called.
That's how I knew.
Queens of the Stone Rain on Bandcamp. I put out 6 or so songs, like about getting tilted when they can you on turn 3 and mulliganing to 5, and just little like 20-second dumb songs.
Did you make the songs up new, or are they like riffs on?
No, wrote them all
from scratch, like getting carned.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay, so Anthony says, that Luis and I didn't play instruments. He says, but do you sing in the shower? It's a pretty high EV play in my experience. So, Maria, guaranteed that you sing in the shower.
I would if I took showers, Marshall. I know that sounds bad. No, I take baths. I have a clawfoot bathtub, and it's just so relaxing. It's what I do every day.
Must be nice to fit in a bathtub.
Yeah, it is.
Do you sing in there?
No, I'm generally watching people draft on Twitch.
Okay, that's cool. Yes or no, Riley? Sing in the shower.
Yeah.
Let it rip?
Yeah, the thing is, like...
Or kind of hum to yourself to pass the time.
I have, like, shower playlists.
For yourself?
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll put on the same... I put on the same, like, songs usually when I'm showering.
And on the radio, like, on your...
I'm on Spotify.
And then
because then I know it's like, this song's ending, time to shampoo my hair. Like, I've got a whole routine sorted out.
Wow.
Yeah,
How often do you change it?
How often do you shower?
Every day, because I
do too. Give me
that's it, man. That's it.
What does it take for a song to make your shower playlist?
It takes a lot. Like, at the moment, it's Fun, and then Illy, who is an Australian rapper that I'm a big fan of. There's a song by Young the Giant in there as well. Like, it sort of evolves. But the other thing is, I'm Australian, right? And in Australia...
Very
Australian. You're not allowed to have long showers. So what...
Whoa. Huh? Allowed?
You're not allowed to.
What do you mean
like
allowed?
A water limit?
So when
do shower police breaking your door?
So there are actually government regulations about what you can and can't use water on in Australia. I mean, I'm sure this happens in the States, in the drier states, right? No? Okay. So there are water restrictions, very severe water restrictions. When I was a teenager, there were like daily bulletins on the front page of the newspaper, right, telling you how much water was remaining in the reservoirs because we were in a terrible drought, right? This is not a joke. The government mailed out egg timers that had like little suction cups on them, and you put that in the shower and it went for 4 minutes, and that's how long you're allowed to shower with. There was a government advertising campaign encouraging you to shower with other people. This is not a joke. in order to save water, right?
Hey, baby, take a shower with me. It's the law.
It's the law.
That is a great line.
What a lot of people did was they would have a song on when they were showering, right? And obviously, like now I live in Scotland, and to have a shower, you can just walk outside because it is always raining.
Easy
but
mode.
I've always just had like music on as like a timer thing. It's like, okay, now I know. Yeah, so like I shower for like 8 to 9 minutes across like 3 songs, and yeah.
Tim, do you sing in the shower?
Pretty much always, yeah.
Yeah,
and
I
I actually
had
do
you
have
as
an
a
egg timer
hard
in
one.
my shower as well.
Do you?
Yeah.
Why?
For the same reason, save water. So
But,
you don't
but
just...
you live in England.
Yeah, but like,
I'm
it's
not
still
saying
good.
it doesn't matter. I'm saying it isn't mandatory there, right?
It's not mandatory, but I have one anyway.
Oh, good for you, Tim.
But yeah, I always sing in the shower, and I don't normally have music on, but weirdly I always fall into singing like similar songs.
I sing in the shower.
No, you do not. You
Yes, I
listen
do.
to podcasts.
I do.
Marshall's been my
often.
roommate. This is how I know this.
Yeah, and that is you are right. Most of the time I have that on, but I'll let it rip.
Just really send a message.
Oh.
Assert dominance
I'll
in that
let it
bathroom.
go. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I'll
absolutely,
drop some
man.
beats on some rhymes on people. Thomas says, due to a relatively small customer base, the drafts at my local store and stores and groups often attract awkward numbers of participants, where the choices are either to play with larger communal pods of say 10 or 11 people, where you only see most packs once, or multiple smaller pods of like 5 or 6. Where the total number of packs lowers the power level of the decks slightly. In these circumstances, do you have any advice for how I could alter and improve my draft results based on this information? Does trying to take fixing early lend any benefit when there are fewer resources? For example, thanks for the content and congratulations on 500 shows and LSV's GP win. Oh, how long ago that felt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Luis, I'm sure anybody who cares has followed, but live in the room here, he had a rough day at the tournament today. Yes, there is advice, and yes, this is important information to know, especially when you're talking about the extremities like a 5-person draft pod versus an 11-person draft pod. As you mentioned, Thomas, the overall power level does change, and the reason that it changes is because there's fewer cards open total. So the real keys here are archetypes that require multiples of a certain, a common. You're never requiring multiples of an uncommon. So multiples of a common or a specific density of certain types of cards in a deck. Just imagine opening up a sealed pool with however many packs there are total for the draft. So if there's 6, like an 18-pack sealed pool. If you wanted to build a really good, let's say, goblins deck in a set that supported goblins, you'd have to really try to scrap out and see how many of these goblins total were opened out of this 15 or 18 packs. Could you make a deck out of that? Probably, but let's not forget, you don't literally get all of them automatically. If there's any good ones that somebody else might take, or they just take randomly, or they dip their toe into your archetype and then bail on it. So you're probably going to get something like 3/4 or 80% of those cards. Your deck might not be that good, even if you did get all of them. If you look at an 11-player pod, right now we're opening up 33 packs, right? That's almost a whole box. You can build a damn nice goblins deck if you're basing it on commons from that type of thing. So your job is to recognize that the strategy you're going for, if it requires critical mass and you have a small draft pod, think about going a different direction, or don't build or take picks that rely on you getting that critical mass, because you're much less likely to get it. On an 11-player pod, you still only get the same number of picks, so it isn't guaranteed that you'll get access to all of those cards, because as Thomas points out here, a lot of times you open up, you take it, you're not wheeling those cards anyway, because there's only going to be 3 cards left in the pack by the time it comes back, or maybe 4. But you have a much better chance to get the ones, especially the cards that only go into one archetype. Like, think of a card that only one deck wants. You'll get all of them, and your deck's probably going to be pretty good. So keep that in mind, Thomas. You do have a lot to adjust for.
I would say, too, just one quick thing is if you have a 6-player pod, I would encourage you to try team drafting, which is super fun. You don't necessarily have to do it the way that they do it at GPs, where you're cutting people off who are, of course, sitting next to you and all that kind of thing. But building in teams together and playing people who aren't on your team, it kind of makes for a really neat little camaraderie and battling together with 2 of your friends against, the other team.
That is the way to play.
And if you ever end up in the giant pod as well, occasionally there are like really weird niche decks that you can only get in a gigantic pod.
You're totally right, Tim.
So,
that's a great point.
Taking like fairy miscreants, if you suddenly find yourself in a
Oh,
12-person
sure.
pod or something, you can put
it'll
together
feel like you're on
something
Arena.
naughty.
Yeah.
Arena doesn't. The bots don't care about miscreant. You can get as many as you want.
I think they've been someone. I think someone posited they've been programmed. I think it was PV said they've been programmed not to take like the card, like undead servants and that sort of stuff. So you're more likely to get the sweet.
Yeah, he was saying that that's a possibility. It might be true. I doubt it, but they don't take it.
Yeah.
They don't like that card. Okay, next. David says, thank you for doing the show. Your advice, such as set reviews and power rankings, has really helped me get better at individual formats. Glad to hear it, David. The next step for me is looking to understand how I can start deriving that info for myself. When you playtest a new card in an unfamiliar format, what do you look for? How do you understand, for example, whether that creature is actively good versus being a replaceable body that helps you press your advantage, or how good cancel is? We're pretty big advocates on the show for being experimental early in a format, trying out cards, even if you know you're giving up a little bit of win rate by doing so. And it looks like David's kind of embracing that concept. But the question is, what are you looking for, right? Because there's a lot of times when you'll play a new card and, you'll go, hey, this card's great. It's like, well, why? How do you know? And do you guys have anything for David for that?
Yeah, I think like one approach you can take, because it's all relative, right? Mm-hmm. Modern Horizons is a more powerful set than M20, for example, but that's just because of the relative power level of all the cards that are spread across the sets there. So what you can do, if you're taking a card that you're not sure about, you can think of a card that has a similar mana cost or would fulfill a similar role in your deck, or maybe would be, in the same wheelhouse as the card that you're testing out. And when you draw it, when you play it, think about, would I rather this was the card that I have, or would I rather this was the card that against which I'm comparing it? So for a card like, I think Cancel was mentioned in the questions.
Yep.
Right, so a card like Cancel, if you're taking a 3-mana counter spell that is maybe conditional or has like a certain kind of conditional upside, or fulfills when you draw it, say, would I rather this was just a cancel? In which case you have a baseline. We all know where cancel sits in terms of relative power level. So a lot of it's relative. You can make relevant comparisons between the power level of cards, and therefore gain a little bit of data as to whether the card is overperforming, underperforming, or meeting your expectations.
Yeah, that's right. The key is being able to, we call it theory crafting. I like to make fun of that term because it just sounds so silly, but it actually is true. It's the ability to take a situation and extrapolate out the possibilities from within that situation.
Yeah, I kind of like looking, maybe not at individual cards to start with, but just you build your first seal deck, you do your first draft, and you just see what falls. And then you start, I like looking at, is there a key toughness at which point my creatures are safe or not safe? And then is there, a point on my mana curve that feels like it's choked, or that there's loads of cards on that mana curve? So, there are some formats where you just take all the 2-drops because there's not enough 2-drops, and there's other formats where 2-drops are garbage, and if you don't have any, it doesn't really matter. And, I feel like the exact same card in 2 different formats is sometimes really different value, and figuring out that terror is good isn't necessarily enough. You need to think about it in terms of what cards is it killing, and is that a good rate for this format?
Yeah, one of the things that I like to use to my advantage early in a format is I make my opponents do a lot of the testing for me. Because one of the things that I think people overlook is that it's not just how your cards did and how they performed. You're just playing against somebody every round. And every time you do, you get to see how their cards did and how they performed against you. How good was this? How did it match up with the archetype that you happen to bring to the table and the other archetypes that you bring? Good example here is Cancel that David brought up. Cancel has ranged in playability from really undesirable to pretty okay, right? You can have it in your deck. And the thing that changes is the relative speed of the format, right? We've had formats that have had, not that long ago, that have had 2 mana creatures with 2 power and evasion, right? 1 in a blue, 2/1 when it attacks, it gets flying.
By the time you have Cancel ready to cast, you're already effectively dead.
Right, and you can figure that out by going, okay, this format has, 1 in 3 colors has a 2/1 with evasion that's common, and we're going to see all the time. And, a 2/1 menace for 1 in a red. That was another one in that format. I think it was either Kaladesh or Amonkhet. I can't remember. But the point being, if you see those and you see people playing those, even if you've never even drafted and played with or against a cancel yet, you've already done, say, 2 or 3 drafts, but you see every single time somebody's like 2-drop, 2-mana evasion creature, you should be able to look at that and go, okay, I'm going to downgrade cancel a little bit. And what you're really looking for is the dividing line between, am I content or happy to main deck this, or am I prefer to have it in my board or never even make the cut? And so, for example, if I played a few drafts and I saw a bunch of these 2/1s on my side or the other side, I would say, for now, I'm going to take the stance of I don't want cancel in my main deck because it's going to be too slow and reactive and I'm going to be too far behind and I can't leave up that kind of mana. And then I will challenge all of my opponents, my podcasting partners, my friends, and everybody else in the world to prove me wrong, right? And if they say, and I mean that by playing it out, right? And if I just go, you know what, cancel really does have a home here. It is doing good work. Then I'll change my mind and I'll start main decking it. But it's kind of I need to take a stance one way or the other based on some logic or some extrapolation. And then I will be proven wrong by that at some point or not. And I kind of leave it up to other people to beat me with these cards before I start doing it, before I have my mind changed, basically. So I think, David, the key there is that you should just be looking for which side of the dividing line these cards fall on. And then after you kind of suss that out, let the format dictate where it goes from there.
I will just say one final thing is once you've reached a certain level of, skill in Magic the Gathering, you've got to learn to trust yourself on your evaluation, because a lot of people are going to be telling you a lot of things. Yes. And it can go back and forth and opinions swing wildly. But in the end, the person that you really need to convince is yourself. And I think that, once you're good enough, listen to your own voice in your head, because a lot of times you're going to be right.
Yeah, especially for that initial stance, right? Like that, for getting that first place, because you may have new information shown to you later that could change your mind, but you really do need to have the skill of setting that line for yourself. Next question comes from Atipong, who says, White has been atrocious in most of the last several sets. What needs to change to, well, I don't know if I'd put it this way, make White great again?
Oh, okay. All right.
Wow. I already gave my answer.
What's your answer?
Inside, in R&D, they need to hire somebody who really likes playing creatures.
Okay, let's pretend it was you.
Me?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, well, thank you.
So what would you do?
Good news.
I'm going to print better creatures in White.
Okay, so give me an example of a common. One of the things that we've seen are these 3-mana kind of benefits you for attacking creatures, but not really over, they're not 3/4s, they're not 4/4s, they're like 3/2s-ish. The 3-mana 3/3, because again, we're talking about combat, so you want to have something beefy at the 2 or 3-mana slot is kind of where I'm thinking. The 3-mana 3/3 is kind of a green thing, right? Like you're kind of encroaching on greens.
All right, I've got it, Marshall.
Okay.
What's going to happen is it's going to be 2 mana, and we're going to make a flyer. So in White, are you surprised right now?
Yeah,
that
that's blue.
There's angels. Yeah. It's an angel.
2-mana angel. Okay, baby angel.
It's a baby angel.
Cherub.
The name of the card is Cherub.
Yeah, Cherub. I like this. All right. That's
and
good.
it's, like a 2/1 or something like that. But here's the deal. I'm inventing a new mechanic too. You can pay.
Okay, this is an evergreen White mechanic.
Yes.
Okay.
The name of it is Divine Judgment. And
wow. Okay.
You can pay 6, and basically it turns it into an exile effect from something, a permanent from your opponent.
What?
So it's like,
do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
It's like the ability
it's a
of
2-mana flyer that's sometimes a removal spell?
You can pay 6 to activate the ability to turn it into an O-ring.
Like,
then it is no longer a 2-mana flyer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hanged Executioner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can
like
exile
that.
Hanged Executioner to exile another...
Which, by the way, is a rare.
Yeah.
But it also brings a friend. It's a totally different thing.
Well, what I'm trying to do is say that
I kind of like this.
These are the things I like about White. It is cheap. It is evasive, generally, when I'm talking about flyers.
Yep.
Or, pushing through damage by pumping up creatures with a spell like +2/+1 to all of your creatures. And I think of exile. Because it doesn't kill anything.
Yep.
It doesn't burn anything.
Yep.
It exiles.
So
there you
you're
go.
combining the powers of a cheap evasive creature with an Oblivion Ring.
Yes.
That's very powerful.
You
What
asked
was it
earlier
called
on,
again?
Divine Judgment.
Love it. Is that a Magic card, by the way?
Probably.
Probably is. Yeah, probably is.
You asked earlier on about all-time good White commons, that are not effectively pacifism. And I've been thinking about this basically since the start of the podcast, because it's bizarrely not a very easy question. But I think that Convoke is a really good mechanic to be in white because like it's lots of things working together, and like we've seen Convoke a little bit of this Pro Tour to put Hogak into play, and that's not cool. But like being able to like snowball getting creatures into play does feel like it could easily be white rather than green.
Why don't we just put Convoke on Maria's creature? You know, it's a
Yeah.
2/1 flyer
Just do it
for
all.
2 that's an Oblivion Ring. It
yeah.
has Convoke. It's just like...
Gains
super-
the
Okay, you're
line.
sacrificing your creature. It makes for an interesting decision.
It does. It does.
But
Okay.
like
you are right. I like your card.
there
It's
used to be
probably an
archers as
uncommon.
well, like the creatures that like tap to deal damage to attacking and blocking creatures. That was like a white mechanic for years and years and years.
Yeah.
That's just kind of gone away and would give white like an interesting form of removal.
Yeah, I wonder. I think they did away with that for complexity, like
On-board complexity?
I don't know. Yeah, you're right though. That was very powerful. It does feel like each of these things encroaches on one of the other colors, which might be part of the problem.
Yeah, is
right?
that
They're like,
pie?
oh, let's make a cheap flyer. It's like, well, that's not really white's thing, right? Like it's supposed to, not that it can't have those, but it's like that's a fundamentally blue thing. It's like, oh, let's have it ping things. Well, that's more of a red thing, right? It's like, what does white get? Right? Like, okay, fine. It needs its own sort of, this is what I stand on. I really like Convoke.
Oh, damage redirection as well.
Yeah, that's huge.
Damage redirection, like Harm's Way, that was a real card.
card was a
let's
beauty.
let's get some more damage redirection in white so that it gets a way of having removal that's not always these boring enchantments.
Love it. All right. Thomas Bang says, Spike mentality aside, which of the other psychographics do you most identify with? Vorthos, Melvin, Johnny, or Timmy? So Vorthos is what, like the flavor guy?
Flavor, yeah.
Yeah, flavor. Melvin? What's Melvin?
Artwork, I think.
I don't even
Weird
know.
combos? I
No,
wanna say?
that's Johnny.
Johnny is combos.
And Timmy's
yeah.
big stuff.
Yeah, I knew that one.
Yeah. I can't remember what Melvin does. Who are you?
I'm Tammy.
Tammy is big stuff.
Big stuff. So, like, I'm always the person, my problem in draft, and I know this, is that I love to take the big, splashy, awesome card, and I have a really hard time getting out of that color, even if it's not open. So,
Miss Cloud Conceer over here somehow figured that one out
well, look, I was being very disciplined and give you the correct answer here.
because you're on the show.
Because
Thank
I'm
you
on
for
the
that.
show. But my true nature is to take the big, fat fatty that does something awesome.
Riley?
Timmy as well, absolutely. Big
big.
dumb green idiots just like me. Get them in there. If I draft a cube, I'm just always forcing ramp. Get me those Crater Hoofs. Get me those Avengers
Get
of
hoofed.
Zendikar. Absolutely. And then when I'm drafting just a regular set, if I can be in green, if I can be playing creatures that, I don't have to... Because numbers are really hard. Numbers are really, really difficult, right? And if you're
It is
like
true.
attacking 2 4s into 3 2s and it's just too many numbers. If you've got like a 7-7 in play and they don't, you're going to win. And it's as simple as that. It's very, very. It's drafting the easy way by Riley Knight. Look for the forthcoming audiobook is years away, but still, no, 100% Timmy. Give me those big dumb green idiots. I'm very, very happy to. I'm not a Spike. That's the thing. I'm not a Spike. I'm very happy to sit down and have a game of Magic and just slam some big mods into play and then lose, and that's fine. That's fun.
Timmy, are you a Timmy?
No, ironically, I am definitely a Johnny.
You definitely are.
I just
Yeah, you totally
I
are.
want to draft like Luis circa 2004.
That is so great.
I want to take all of the cards that don't necessarily achieve very much, but do cool things. And like every now and again, when I'm just like I've had a long week or whatever, and I just need a win, then I get a little bit spiky. But basically, I just want to be Johnny all the time.
I'm definitely a Melvin.
Oh, what's Melvin?
I don't know. I'm reading an article right now.
Isn't it a punk band?
Melvin enjoys comprehending the underlying structure. Melvin wants to understand how something is put together and then admire the craftsmanship.
I mean, you
of
literally
the
repair
interdependencies.
watches.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of am a
Silent.
Melvin.
Yeah.
I kind of moved in blind and just hoping it would be like really not. And it kind
the
of
chef
actually
just
worked.
lifts the silver dish, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden it's perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. I'm a Melvin, it turns out. Ross says, I feel like drafting the hard way is mandatory on Magic Online, but is this still viable for Arena? It seems to me that it's way easier to hedge into a strong archetype in Arena and it's actually beneficial to do so. What's the Nuts and Bolts Spikes approach to Arena draft? Thanks, guys, and congrats to Luis for the GP win. Well, the thing about Arena is you can draft the hard way, but you have a lot more information before you sit down about what might actually happen to you. drafting the hard way is what we talk about on the show. It's Ben Stark's kind of method or ideal, and of course we do it as well, which is to try to stay open, right? Not to just take the first 2 colors that you see in the good cards and then just stick to them until the end and hope that the packs come there. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions, like abandoning a big rare that you opened or changing into a completely different archetype halfway through the first pack because that's what's open. On Arena, you are still rewarded for doing that. Absolutely. The bots are drafting with some type of logic behind them. It's not random. And if you are in the wrong colors, if you are being passed to by a bot that is in your deck, you are not going to be a happy camper. So yes, you do still need to draft the hard way, even on Arena. The difference is that the bots have gaps. We talked about Fairy Miscreant. Not even a card I like. But you know what? If you give me 6 or 7 of them, okay, sure, I'll play it. You can kind of go off. And, if it's just ignoring those cards, you guys talked about the gold cards that it tends to shy away from too. If you know a card is going to wheel, if you know you can get a certain common later than you ever should with remarkable consistency, that's going to influence your picks. You're still drafting the hard way as a baseline, but I'd call it modified hard way drafting, thanks to the extra information that you get by listening to the show and by drafting a bunch on it.
You can kind of draft the easy way, to be honest. If you really want to be lazy and you want to end up, if you just want to burn through, your dailies, you want to add to your collection, that sort of stuff. As long as you're honest with yourself and you recognize that you're not drafting the most optimal and efficient way that's going to teach you the most, like if you're drafting for different reasons, you can burn through arena drafts on autopilot and not be punished as severely as you would be IRL or on MTGO.
Yeah, that's also a function of modern set design. There's so many fewer cards that are just stone unplayable.
Yep.
Our definition of an unplayable now is a lot different than in years past.
Yeah.
It'd be like, oh, that's a 3/2 for 3. Nah, dog, that's unplayable. Before, it would be like a common obscure enchantment that said, this creature loses hexproof, and it's like, that's it. And you're like, I can't, what? I can't, I'm not going to play this card in any deck, even if my opponent's playing hexproof, like Maria might. Daryl says, oh, this is a great one for us. We're going to go around the horn here. What are your favorite and least favorite tournament locations? What's a city or country you'd like to see a tournament organized in? I already know the answer to the second one for Maria, but I still want to hear it. What's your favorite and where do you want to see a tournament?
So, well, I loved being in London. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of the UK. And so I'm going to...
Why is that obvious?
Oh, if you know me, you know this fact.
Let's assume that some of these listeners don't know you.
Okay, sure.
What do you like about the UK?
So, I love the culture. I love the people. I love the history. Most of all, I love the food. Yes, that's right. I drafted British food when I had to take a food nationality for the rest of my life. It's
I was
true.
there. She did.
And also I speak Welsh and I love Welsh history. And so I would love to see a tournament in Wales, obviously. I know that's probably, I feel like there was one in Cardiff at some point. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Is there a single building in Wales big enough to hold a Magic
Absolutely
tournament?
there is.
It's like
town
a
hall.
fat shed.
It's like a shed.
Yeah.
Like I assume it's all mud-packed walls and thatch,
my
ceilings
God.
and roofs. It's not? You sent me pictures from your trip there a few months ago. It looked like that to me.
I mean, that because I was in search of that, you see, the history.
I see.
I love
So
how
there's a
far...
lot of skyscrapers in the other part of Wales.
Yeah, down in the capital.
Okay.
I mean, I love the history of it and how far back it goes and the language and the people and all that. But my other answer, which I think would be a fantastic location for a Mythic Championship, is Iceland. I think it'd be beautiful.
Oh my God, that's a great idea.
And we could go and hang out in the hot springs.
Riley, favorite tournament location and where would you like to see one?
GP Glasgow. When? When will it happen? I want to walk to work, Marshall.
That's because you live there?
Because I live there. No, Scotland's Magic community is second to none. It is incredible. I moved to Scotland only about a year and a half ago, and I was welcomed with open arms by some of the nicest Magic players I've ever met. Long-term fans of coverage will remember coverage of GP Birmingham when Gary Campbell won. That is one of the highlights of my Magic broadcasting career. What an event that was. 50 bellowing Scots as the godfather of Scottish Magic won. And I think just the community, the vibe, the atmosphere of Scottish Magic means that a Magic Fest or a GP or even a Mythic Championship, something like that, being held in Glasgow would... it'd just go off. It'd be such an incredible event. And
Have I been to Scotland before?
I'd get to walk to work, so that's
I haven't been there, right?
You've never been there.
Okay.
It's good.
I'm in.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want it.
I would
All right.
love it.
All
I'm
right.
in, obviously.
Yeah. Do they have enough thicket thatched,
They're
mud packed? No, is
They've
this different?
recently
Everything's
discovered
made out of
reinforced.
thistles.
Yeah, they've recently
Thistles.
discovered reinforced iron. So I think there's going to be a big enough building go up in the coming years. So we can pencil it in. We can
All
pencil
right.
it in.
Yeah, by the time we get there,
Yeah.
the building will be done.
Yeah.
Tim, what's your favorite? You've been doing coverage for longer than any of us. What's your favorite location, and where would you have a tournament if given a choice?
Given a choice, if I was going to have a tournament somewhere, I'd pick somewhere I've not been just because it's nice to, or not been for a tournament at least. I'd want to have a tournament in Budapest in Hungary.
Oh, beautiful.
that'd be
city.
awesome.
Incredibly beautiful city.
Yep.
Which, I think, it's wild to me that we've never been there, and I don't really know
Yeah,
why.
we've done Prague a bunch of times.
Yeah, I think it would be a cool place to be. I've been there visiting for other things, and I'm like, yeah, this is cool. It would be cool to go to Budapest. In terms of places that I've been, the weird bit is that, when you travel to an event, sometimes the main bit that you just see is the convention center itself and the hotel and not much else. So, even though, Hawaii has been incredible for the various Pro Tours that have been held there, when you're in the room, it's just a hot room. In some respects, I just want to be in, somewhere that's really, really, pleasant to be in when you're having the event itself, and then we can get awesome food afterwards. And, actually, for awesome food afterwards, Vegas is pretty good.
Yeah, Vegas isn't bad. Where's your favorite location?
That we've ever been?
Yeah, I mean, you said you want to have a tournament in Budapest. Where would you? Where's the one? I mean, you've been to everywhere.
Kobe, Japan was amazing. That one I would recommend.
Marshall-
Japan in general is amazing, but Kobe was of the Japanese
what's
cities.
yours? We were in Kyoto. That was pretty sick.
That was definitely on the short list. I think that was my favorite trip.
Yeah.
For sure. The food, yeah, unbelievable. That's also considering that Kyoto was the worst weather. The two extremes I've had are Kyoto in the summer, which was
I did not know Japan was sweltering.
Oh yeah, it was
it's
38 degrees and
it's a sauna.
humid.
And full humidity.
416
yeah,
cubic
it was in the
degrees.
90s and full humidity. It was the most. I mean, I was in Africa for a month and a half. It was the worst weather I've ever been in, and I still enjoyed myself a lot. By the way, the tie for other worst weather. We once did a pro tour in Montreal in the middle of winter. I looked at my iPhone and it was minus 27 degrees. I'm like,
There's
it
frost
can't be real.
appearing on the screen around the
It
edges.
feels like minus 40. I'm like, what is going on?
Minus 40 is where that's very handy for international listeners because that's where Celsius and Fahrenheit overlap. So we don't have
Minus 40 is a Tuesday in Minneapolis. Come on now.
There's only two places in my life that I've ever truly believed it's possible to die of cold, and it was that Pro Tour and Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yes, both of those two places.
I had
of
ice
death
forming
and
in my
decay.
beard in that Pro Tour.
It was brutal. Where would I want to see one? This is a simple answer for me. Germany. For the
Yeah.
love of God. I can speak German, and we have never been there since I've been doing coverage because there's some German law about gambling or something that basically makes giving out prizes a complete nightmare for the tournament organizers, so they just don't hold tournaments there anymore. And I mean, I don't know if this law is even under question there, but it's holding back, kind of a cool thing here, at least with bringing in a Magic tournament. And I haven't been back to Germany in years. I've been there 6 or 7 times to visit, and I used to go there fairly regularly. And it's been years and years, and I miss it. I want to go back, and I'd love to go back for work. So please take me there. I guess the last time we had a GP there, maybe Tim, you were there. It's referred to as GP Best Buy.
I've
this
heard
is
the
the
stories.
best story.
Yeah.
I've been at both of the German GPs where they've
Give
ended
us a
up giving
little-
away TVs.
Yeah, give us a little, I remember Martin Yuza won, right?
Yeah, so there was a really weird mix of how people felt at these GPs because in each instance it was at the point you booked your plane ticket, it was all cushy. You were going to be getting money if you won, and it was all copacetic, the same as you would for any GP. And then in each instance, it was literally a day before, roughly, that all of a sudden there was some issue somehow, and it worked out that no, instead people are being given credit to get things with. So you had people getting laptops, you had people getting travel vouchers, places, you had people getting PlayStations, and weirdly, for loads of the players, they were like,
I don't want this.
No. For loads of the players, they're like, this is way better because
But wasn't there the story of there was an Asian player who flew in for one of them and placed and won a plasma television. I was just like, I can't check this into my hand.
No one
luggage.
got handed a TV on the day.
That's the mental image I had.
No,
That's very funny.
It wasn't the you've won a speedboat, you live in Dakota.
Good luck
deal.
getting this through security.
No, it was like, okay, tell us what you want and we'll get it for you.
Right, okay, right.
And so I remember Martin User being super happy because he got to get something that he knew that he wanted anyway and he didn't have to do any of the organization for it. It just appeared. But yeah, I think that the people it was rough on are the ones that actually know the thing that they wanted wasn't something they could just order off Amazon. They wanted to be able to take their wife out for a nice meal or whatever, and that becomes a bit more difficult.
Yeah, that is really funny, by the way. And again, we call this GP Best Buys now, but that was also the last time that there was a major tournament in Germany, unfortunately. So bring me back. Jens says, "Hi, I'm currently constructing a peasant cube that's common plus uncommon with a strong archetype theme connected to each 2-color combination: Azorius Blink, Simic Counters, Rakdos Madness / Hellbent, etc. I'm wondering what some of your favorite build-around archetypes are and which guild you would assign them to. I'm having some trouble deciding on what to do with Gruul, so tips would be appreciated." And then he asks Luis a question about Eternal. Love the show and thanks for all the hard work. You're welcome, Jens. Anything stand out? First off, Maria, we'll start with you on any archetypes that just you associate one thing with the other. But primarily, do you have any idea for Gruul?
I'm just thinking about Rakdos over here.
Yeah,
Still.
Yeah, he's got the Madness / Hellbent. Is that the way you would go if you were building a cube?
I think Madness for sure, and I think Hellbent's a lot of fun. I personally, this is very controversial, I think my favorite Rakdos mechanic is actually Unleash.
Unleash. I knew you were going to say that.
And a lot of people are like,
why is that controversial? Unleash is cool.
Well, I think it's great, but a lot of people thought it was way too simple.
Oh, I see. Because Madness is clever and tricky and weird.
Correct. So maybe you want Madness in something like a cube, and it makes sense. But man, do I love to bash. And people who draft back Rakdos, I think they love to bash. I almost called it Bashdos or whatever. But but yeah, it's just great. Turn creatures sideways, put counters on them, blockings for chumps, etc., etc. So as long as I think the archetype feels like it's doing the thing that it wants to do, you're all gravy.
Riley, red-green.
Yeah, I got one for Gruul. Landfall, easy. Landfall,
That's a
easy.
great one.
Oh, that would be fun.
There's a lot of sweet because it's peasant, right? So we can include
It's common and uncommon.
common and uncommon. So there are a lot of sweet landfall creatures from original Zendikar, Battle for Zendikar as well. Ones that I remember playing and really, really enjoying, like Grove Rumbler. Cards that are not only cool build around uncommons, but also just basic bread and butter commons that are just a lot of fun to play with. And I've got a little commons only kind of sort of cuboid. It's only 100 cards, and it's something I used to jam between rounds at coverage with people. And little cards like, I don't know, even you can put a Culling Heart Expedition in there if you want to ramp. You can put a Jaddy Offshoot in there if you wanted to gain life, that sort of thing as well. And I think it's one of the more overlooked side, because green red is big dumb monsters, whatever else. But if you're playing at common, Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, you can get some of the panoramas in there. Lots of cool ways to investigate and trigger landfall. So for Gruul, I'd be looking at for landfall as my mechanic.
Anything stand out to you, Tim?
I'm similar to Riley when it comes to what I do with Gruul. I think that you can broaden it out to be there's other cool things with lands as well. So if we look at Modern Horizons, for example, red-green has a bunch of stuff about once a land ends up in the graveyard, things end up getting kind of interesting, and getting lands back from the graveyard again. You can set up some Gruul doesn't have to be big dumb creatures. It can be doing all sorts of interesting things with its lands on top of that, Gruul Guildmage that's you sacrifice lands to deal damage to people. There's a whole bunch of different land elements that I think are exactly what I'd put on Gruul. Then for Rakdos, I was surprised that Maria didn't mention sacrificing things, because Furnace Celebration is one of my all-time archetype build-around cards that I've always loved. There are so many cards that subtly have the word sacrifice on, and if you just stick that uncommon in, people and Red X will find cards that work with it.
And of course, there's the active treason sacrifice synergies.
Oh, yeah.
I love. I would definitely do what both Riley and Tim said. In fact, I would combine them for Gruul and do lands matter, right? Landfall, lands in the graveyard, lands. Ramping out lands from your library. I love
even
that.
Threshold. It kind of plays into it.
That can play in the excavating Anurid. Crush Castles says, How does it feel getting to 500 episodes? That's a long time for anything to be around. I didn't really feel particularly, but I did look back and I was like, oh, this is the longest job I've ever had. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, it wasn't really a job when I started it, so to be fair, but I have been doing it longer than any job I ever worked.
I think it's awesome.
I think it's incredible.
We just hit 300 a couple of months
GLHF?
ago on Good Luck High Five.
I've got 57.
That's a year.
I tell you what, I started listening. I think it was episode. I want to say 136. That
was a while ago.
I was in Brisbane. I was up in Queensland. I was off on a holiday, and I remember I just wanted to level up my Magic game, and some people had said, "Hey, you need to give this podcast a listen." And the story, you've heard this 1,000 times because it's what I always say to you, Marshall. I remember that. I remember listening to an episode where you explained that Centaur Corsa as a 3-mana 3/3, perfectly good card to have in limited deck. And I was drafting M13 at the time, being like, "Well, I'm not going to play this. Doesn't have any text. Doesn't have any ability. Doesn't do anything cool."
Flavor text.
But it's incredible that, like, you know, we've gone from, you know, someone I looked up to you. I got you to sign. I've still got the limited resources and the mana war that you signed at the WMC, that sort of stuff.
I remember that jumper you were wearing.
Oh yeah, the
green one.
The green one.
Yeah.
That's right. And
I'm
now,
like, who is this guy with the kangaroo jumper?
It's incredible. And now I'm like on this podcast talking. Like, this is the reason that I'm the podcast that I'm on right now is the reason that I'm sitting here talking on it, which is incredible.
That's really cool.
But what a journey it must have been. I mean, 500 episodes in.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because when I think about it, like, I care way, way, way more about that, what you just said, than about a number. I mean, we didn't even really do anything special for 500. We might do something.
I heard
for
you
the
recorded
10-year.
it nude.
Well, that's not special. We'll probably do something for the 10-year anniversary in a month and a half or something, or maybe on episode 541 for the 5-for-1. That's some sick value.
Yeah, 5-for-1. That's
very
the stuff that dreams are made of. Absolutely.
Yeah, but you know, we got a lot of good stuff on Twitter and that kind of thing, and I tend to focus in on smaller interactions rather than like this sweeping, like, oh, you did this thing that is 500. Like, I don't know, my brain doesn't really differentiate that much between like 200, 500, 1,000. Like, I don't really know the difference, right? But I do know a personal interaction, like talking with you, Riley, or listening to other listeners that have said that the show helped them get better at Magic, or even helped them through a tough time in their life or something. And those, I'm very, like, I connect with those in a very real way. The arbitrary number of episodes, I'm kind of like, nah, it's cool.
It's cool.
Like,
exactly.
You know, for me, I was like, I don't want to take a whole show just to talk about the show. I'm like, I still just want to get a good, you know, like, value show out the door. I don't know. I've always taken an approach of putting the listener first in any way that I can.
And what a privilege as well. I mean, obviously I'm nowhere near on the level as limited resources with my little efforts and, you know, or even GLHF or that sort of thing. But getting an email from someone saying, hey, you know, I've had some trouble sleeping, or hey, I'm having a tough time at home, or that sort of stuff, and I've listened to your podcast. It's just, you know, it just came along at the right time. Like, that is, it's humbling. It's such a privilege,
it really
you know,
is.
and it makes to know that you've made the world a better place just for one person on one day. Like, what a thing it is. And you know, as a content creator, again, I'm certainly on a lower level in terms of reach and audience and that sort of stuff. But even knowing that I'm out there just making one person's day better is, it's the reason, right?
No,
it's the only reason.
It is the only reason to do it. It's also the only reason to stay doing it, because if you get some of the negative feedback, or you get down about it, or you think, why am I doing this? I suck. You know, this isn't what I want it to be, or whatever. It only really does take one of those and go, all right.
And be careful with your words. We're people. This is something that I remind people of when they're in Twitch chat, when they're saying nasty stuff about, like, we're real humans.
Yeah.
We're real humans, real flesh and blood.
Yeah.
I can tell you, yesterday, we had a great broadcast. All these people on Twitter saying, oh, well done, da. One person said something nasty about something that I said or something that I did. Guess what I was thinking about when I went to bed that night? It sucks.
Yeah,
it sucks.
does.
Be careful with your words.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment for sure. Benjamin says, where does the vanilla scale lie these days? It used to be that a 2/2 for 2 was fine, but I don't think that's really true anymore, with cards like Pack Mastiff, a 2/2 with upside, kind of being fringe playable. That's a good point, Benjamin. The vanilla test is never set in stone. In fact, it's arguably relative to each set, but, you know, we use it as a litmus test when we don't know a lot about the set yet. It's really just meant to give you a snapshot idea to compare with what its abilities are. I agree. A 2/2 for 2 with no text is not up to snuff. They also don't print them very often. Most 2/2 for 2s do have text on them.
It's often hidden in the creature type if there's no proper text.
Yes, that's another good point. And maybe it's both.
Do you want to know GLHF's new test?
Yeah.
We call it the Riparian Tiger test.
Okay.
Do you remember this card?
I remember the name. I don't remember the card.
Okay.
It was the energy card from Kaladesh?
Yes.
It was good. It was very good.
Check it out. Look it up. Riparian Tiger. And basically what we say to ourselves is now, would I rather have a Riparian Tiger?
That's fair. Why did you pick that card?
You know what? I don't know. I think it was just like a perfectly
You just need a line in the sand,
solid,
right?
Sweet.
solid card.
It's like when you like, oh, I desperately want to go out for dinner, and you just go, is this better than McDonald's? If it's not, why am I going here?
You picked this card as the baseline to compare all other
It's
cards
a very
to.
powerful card.
I think it's like a solid creature, right, with a pretty sweet upside.
What is it again? It's a 4-mana,
5-mana 4/4 that can get bigger. Something like that.
Maria, what are you doing? It's a 5-mana 4/4 with trample that gets 2 energy. So in order to explain this concept to somebody who doesn't play, tell them what
Okay,
energy
maybe we
is.
need to update it.
And whenever it attacks, you may pay 2 energy to give it +2/+2 until end of turn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fine card, but there's too much
That's
context.
exactly what I'm saying. It is a perfectly fine card, Marshall.
That is not the middle, though. That is like, to me, look,
Are you
5-mana
saying
4/4.
all your cards in your decks are Riparian Tigers?
Wow, Maria drafts better than I do. I'll tell you that, because Riparian Tiger's nice. But yeah, with the vanilla test, it is variable and it does change. And you are correct about your assessment there. A couple more questions, and then we'll call this one a show. Josh says, "Hey guys, first of all, congrats to Luis for the big GP win. Yay!
Congratulations. Well done.
job, Luis.
Yes. Luis, hooray.
In regards to that win, I was wondering what sort of preparation you do before attending a high-level event like a Magic Fest. I intend on doing my first one later this year, and I'm really excited about it, but also nervous." He also says, "Good luck at the Mythic Championship. You got this, Luis." Well, you were wrong about a few things there, Josh. But it does bring up, he does bring up a very good question, which is, you're going to play in a GP. What are you doing to prepare, especially your first one? Any thoughts on that?
Reps.
We all go to a lot.
There's tons of different things going on at a GP. If it's your first one, that are going to seem weird. The one thing that you can control before you get there is getting comfortable with the game that you're playing. So, like, if you're playing Constructed, then jam a ton of games with that deck. If you're playing Limited, try and jam as much as you can of that format, so that even if, you don't know your way around the building, you don't understand how, like, figuring out where the pairings board is so you can get seated, figuring out how you're going to sort out food, like all of this other stuff that's like hectic, like if the games, you know what you're doing, then everything else kind of falls into place.
We actually made a video about this on YouTube. It's called "Going to Your First GP" or whatever.
I'll link to the video too if you give me the link for it.
Great. Yeah, we made it a few years ago, but absolutely everything we say and it still stands. And honestly, if most of your testing is online, I would say go down to your local game store and play it in paper, because you'd be surprised how much just the physical action
the mechanical part, right?
of going through your deck will change how confident you feel about playing in that Grand Prix.
Totally. Also, just getting used to the, one of the things that's kind of tough for players, if they're really used to truly playing casually, is the rules level, enforcement level. It's tough, right? Like
no takesies, backsies.
Right, no takes. And the thing is, the thing that I've tried to teach people is to shift their mentality, to look inwards and put the onus on themselves to do everything properly, and understand that if they don't, then it's on them. Right. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people get frustrated that somebody called a judge on them, even though the other person should have.
Yeah.
Like they
100%.
It's not an insult. It's nothing personal.
Right. And it wasn't, and they just thought, well, this guy's a jerk.
Yeah.
Like he's telling on me. Like, but this doesn't happen at my local store. I just take it back, or I just say sorry. Right. And the thing is that these rules are in place for very good reasons. And a lot of them, they don't like to talk about it a lot, but a lot of them are to prevent cheating. Right. For example, let's say I tap 4 mana and I cast a spell, and my opponent goes, "You don't have the right colors to cast that." And I go, "Oh, my bad." And I take it back. And you don't call a judge, nobody does, and we just move on. If I'm the type of person who's willing to take advantage of players who aren't as attentive as you were, I get to try this every single round of every single tournament I play, and all the people that notice just have me take it back and don't say anything, and all the people that don't get wrecked. And that gives me a large advantage. And you can imagine any number of small edges like that pop up over the course of a tournament that, if you're an unscrupulous person, you're willing to take advantage of. The way that this gets stopped is that the other person goes, "Nothing personal, got to call a judge. My opponent tried to cast a spell. They didn't have the mana for it. The judge will say, no problem. You're going to get a warning. No big punishment.
Which is not a big deal.
No, not at all. If it was actually an accident and you're playing, in a relatively clean manner, it won't matter at all. But if you are trying to get people, that will add up. And you'll eventually show up in the judge's system as somebody who's gotten repeated warnings over repeated tournaments, and they will take action at some point. So again, that other person is trying to make sure that the game is clean. And you should look and say, I need to clean up. I tried to do something that was outright illegal in the game. And if my opponent wants to make sure that this gets pointed out to a judge so that the tournament stays clean, I should be supporting that. I should say, absolutely, call the judge. It was my mistake. I gotta tighten up my act here because I'm playing too loose. Again, it's not the specific example that's important. It's the mentality.
That's what I wanted to touch upon real quick is the mental game, right? Because you got to go to a GP for the first time. If you're going to a Magic Fest GP for the first time, you've got to get your mental game on point, right? You've got to ensure that the psychology that you're bringing to the tournament is not going to destroy you. Not even within the game, outside of the game. You can't afford to have it become this big disaster that turns you off competitive Magic. You've got to go. There are a couple of things. You've got to go with realistic expectations.
Yes.
You're probably not going to win.
Right.
You're probably going to lose a lot. Mm-hmm. You are going to lose against players who have been losing games of Magic longer than you've been playing.
Right.
And losing is part of it, and you learn from it. You take something away from it. So have realistic expectations about. Set yourself a goal. Making day 2, admirable goal for someone's first GP. If you don't make it, you celebrate your successes, and you learn from the mistakes that you made. And the second thing is just a basic level of respect for your opponent, for the game, and for yourself, right? You've got to make sure that you come out of it having had fun, because that's what it's about. At the end of the day, it's a game. And if you decide that Magic Fest, if GPs are not for you because it's too competitive, it's too spiky, whatever else, do a bit of self-reflection. Realize what you can change to make the psychology of competitive Magic more palatable for you. Or maybe you just stick to FNM and you be that FNM hero, and there is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, of course, at Magic Fest these days, too, it's not like the GP is the only thing you can do.
Yeah, that's it. Chaos Draft, whatever else, you can have a bunch of fun.
The other thing is that, something that I think is easy to forget when you've been to lots of them, but the first time you go to a GP, if you're playing in the main event and your expectation or your goal is to make day 2 is to get further and further, it's a long old weekend.
Oh, that's such a great point.
There is a lot of Magic that you're playing.
Snacks.
You start first thing in the morning, you potentially playing till pretty late. Yes, figure out how you're going to deal with food. But if you're trying to figure out, if it's a constructed event, some decks will fry your brain over time if they're not the kind of deck that you really enjoy playing, fits with you. If you think that Control is the best deck, but know that after 3 games playing Control, you need a little break, you probably should not take it to a GP, because you're going to be playing it for a lot of rounds, and you want to have fun, and you're not going to have fun if you can't handle the length of the day.
Yeah, you can just see that look on some people's faces at the end of a long day of GP playing where they're like, I'm done.
You're sitting 9 university exams back to back, basically.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's incredibly, the mental load is huge.
It is really tough. Last question comes from James, who says, I'm trying to get my 8-year-old into drafting. He loves watching videos and has listened to some of the M20 set review. Do you have any suggestions for teaching Mr. Jude?
Wow. Yeah. I remember draft was the first kind of Magic I ever played. And all I did was sit down with somebody who had drafted before, and they showed me basically a pack. Cracked a pack. You can crack a real one. You can find a draft simulator, and you sit down and you say, hey, what are you taking out of here and why are you taking it? And then you listen to what they have to say and use it as a teaching moment. Maybe help them along the right path or suggest things to them, and then move on to the next pick. Hey, what are you going to take? Why are you going to take that? And having that one-on-one personal time with somebody who knew how to do it really shaped, my start in draft, to be disciplined, to stick with the color. And I did really well in my first draft because of it. Yeah,
that's funny. It is interesting because part of the reason why we're also attracted to limited, on the podcast and Luis and I and that kind of stuff, is because it actually is one of the best possible ways for newer players to play. Even though it doesn't seem that way, because it can be daunting. You have to do kind of all of the things needed in Magic. You draft the cards. You have to know how to build mana base. You have to know how to build a deck, and then you have to know how to play it. That is a lot to ask for a newer player. I admit it, but you don't need a collection. You do not need to have a stack of mythic rares just to be able to compete at your local store. By playing limited, you can sit down on an even playing field and battle it out against whoever it is that's sitting there. Now, look, they might be better than you. Skill matters, but that's something that we all want to exist here. But you are starting with the same situation that they are on over the long haul.
I'd also say
that's what's so attractive about it.
Teach if you can, teach him with a friend, because then he'll be playing against somebody on his own skill level.
So my recommendation, and this is it feels a little bit cheaty compared to the way that drafts would typically go if you're drafting at a local store with your friends in person, but for a first draft experience, especially if you're teaching someone how to draft, the arena draft model is actually completely perfect. You have as much time as you could possibly want to take on every single pick. So the two of you can sit together, crack a pack, and you can have that conversation and figure out your first pick. If the two of you aren't sure about what you should take, you can literally fire up the internet and go and look at LSV's rankings and listen to the podcast and be like, oh, actually this rare is cool, let's take it. And it's there, you can see all of your picks, you can take as much time as you need, and at the end of it, you've got that deck and you get to play those games. And you don't have to, one of the things, in our store, we have lots of people that are of all levels of experience. And for newer drafters, one of the things that can be daunting is that you've got, let's say, 30 seconds to a minute to make a pick before the rest of the table's kind of checking their watches a little bit. And if you're still learning the cards, if you're still new to the game, that's really rough. But with infinite time on Arena, you can take that time and you can make it so that each pick feels like it's on purpose.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. So get in there, Mr. Jude. No time to waste. You're already 8 years old. You only have so much time on this planet and so many drafts to get in. Let's get started right now. All right, let's end things right there. First things first, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys for popping in. This was on relatively short notice and a long workday behind us. So thank you, each of you, for taking the time. Maria, we'll start with you. Where can people find you and the stuff that you make?
Generally, anywhere that sells cheese any day of the week.
Thank you. And Riley.
Just kidding. Yeah, you can find my stuff on goodluckhighfive.com. We have a podcast every single week. We also do a news show called The Upkeep, which is 10 minutes of magic news released every Monday. Again, goodluckhighfive.com has everything. YouTube.com/goodluckhighfive has all of our videos as well.
Yeah, I'll put links to this stuff in the show notes as well for easy access. Riley, what about you? Where can people find your stuff?
Double plug?
Do it, buddy.
Double plug. All right, so I got two things to hawk to your listeners here. First of all, Arena Boys, Serious Magic for winners. We don't play any limited.
Serious Magic for winners.
Serious Magic for winners.
Okay.
The most serious Magic for the biggest winners. No, we play dumb decks every week with Mythic Championship top 8 competitor Toralf Toffel Severin, newly minted. By the time this goes out, he may be indeed a Mythic champion.
Could be.
I'll certainly be hoping so.
Could have Tron it up tomorrow.
And some other idiot called Yamin Cow. But if you want to take a break from the nuts and bolts, the spiky stuff, you want to just watch some dumb idiots play some dumb Magic, Arena Boys. It's on channelfireball.com. The other thing, if you want to listen to me talk about not magic, halfassedhistory.net. I've got a weekly podcast there. Again, very sort of, I think the biggest problem with history is it has a PR problem. It's seen as very boring, and half-assed history is, it's more like I don't know, again, dumb, silly, funny, entertaining stories from around history. And it's a lot of fun to make. It's a lot of fun. It's just a little passion project of mine. If you want to listen to it again, that's fine. But most important thing, just click. Give me those numbers. That's all I want to hear. And of course, at Radical Tower on Twitter.
Okay, we'll put links again for all that stuff. Tim, you mentioned your store. You own it. It's your store.
It's my place, yeah. Magic Madhouse London. We're in East London, and we have drafts every Friday night. We have Commander every Thursday night. We have Magic going on a whole bunch of the time. And you can get food, you can get drink. Please come on by. Easiest way to find out about us, go on Facebook and look for Magic Madhouse London on there. You can send us a message and we'll sort you out with whatever you need.
And like I said, I had a chance to visit there.
It is sweet.
Yeah, during the Mythic Championship in London. It is a very nice store and definitely worth the visit. Magic Madhouse London.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think I have anything else to plug. I just started writing a book about Commander, but that's going to take a little while to come out, so we won't worry about that
something
until
to
it's
look forward
done.
to. Tim's Wheelbarrow on Twitter?
Tim's Wheelbarrow on Twitter.
I'll have a link to that one as well. Of course, you can find me on social media, Marshall_LR, pretty much everywhere. Anything related to the podcast, you're going to find at lrcast.com. I want to thank our sponsor, once again, channelfireball.com. If you want to trade in your cards, this is kind of the magic circle of life. it's an expensive hobby. Let's face it. These cards are not cheap, especially if you're trying to, get some booster boxes to draft with your friends, or God forbid, you're trying to dip your toe into Constructed. You're going to need some expensive tools of the trade. And one way you can kind of get ahead on that is to trade your cards back in to CFB. You can take that pile of draft rares that you're not going to use anyway, and they'll give you plus 30% store credit if you trade them in, or you can just get cash at the straight up value as well. Whatever works best for you. But that is something that you should definitely take advantage of, the buy list on Channel Fireball. That is going to do it for the show this week. We'll be back with Luis next week. We'll see you then. Tim, do you have anything? Who has a sign-off?
I'll do it. I'll just pop one off the dome. I've had one of the best days of my life today. Can I talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, fire it
Oh, my
off.
goodness.
Run it up.
What a Mythic Championship we've had. I mean, of course, we don't know the winner. This on Saturday night. We're going to head into tomorrow and see what happens with the top 8.
Yeah.
But what an experience I've had. Modern is like, it was full of surprises today. We thought people were just going to get gacked all day. We got 1 copy in the top 8, I think, maybe 2. I think it's just 1.
People were definitely getting gacked.
Can we just take a moment to talk about the phrase getting gacked?
Yeah, I said it a lot on there.
Yeah, it's
I
just
said it
a
once,
thing
and then I was
now.
like, I'm going to leave this one to Marshall.
It is just not right.
I said it yesterday too.
Did you ever play with gack back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff was nasty.
Yeah, you get gacked.
But then, the top 8. Tore off Toffel Severin. David Mindsy Mines from Australia. What a top 8 is. Martin Muller's got
These
up
are like
again.
2 of your good friends,
Two of my,
right?
like, Toffel's one of my best mates on earth, and Mindsy is this top bloke from Brisbane representing Australian Magic, like, for the longest amount of time. He's taken us to so many WMCs. I couldn't be prouder. I got to see them face off against each other as well. It was an absolutely wild day. I mean, this is going to be one of the days that I look back on as, like, an absolute highlight of my broadcasting career. And now, I'm sitting here on limited resources.
Hey!
We've come full circle. We did it.
What'd you have for dinner?
I had the meatballs.
Okay.
I had the advocated meatballs.
Read this tweet from Matej Big Z Zadelkai here. After some Googling, it seems that the last time a U.S. player did not top 8, a PT or PT equivalent, was Worlds in 2009. By the way, relevant to
10
what
years
Riley
ago?
was saying.
10 years ago. Australians.
Just running the rub-ins?
We're coming
I'm
for you.
just saying, it's interesting.
That's not interesting. That sucks.
We always get to win, Marshall. Give the rest of the world a chance.
USA, not number 1, apparently, number 9.
I don't even know if we finished 9th, did we?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know Jelger was 10th.
Yeah, he's from Netherlands. Yeah. Rough showing. All right. Well, thanks again, guys. And we'll see you next week.